Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of the John Hansard Gallery podcast. My name is Luke, I'm a gallery assistant here at the John Hansard, and basically if you're not familiar with us, we are part of Arts at University of Southampton. We're a national portfolio organisation funded by Arts Council England. This year we found ourselves moving down from the Highfield campus of the university down to the Guildhall Square Cultural Quarter in Southampton. For our first exhibition here in the new space, we're very happy to present Gerhard Richter in association with Tate. There's quite a range of work on display here, so definitely come down and check it out for yourselves. I won't be able to do it any justice talking to you about it. You definitely need to see it in its glory. But you've got to get down here before the show closes on the 18th of August if you do want to check it out for yourselves. Joining me today, we have a few of our other gallery assistants. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves, we'll start going.
Hello, I'm Sarah Macario.
I'm David Baker.
I'm Sophie Butcher.
And I'm Dave Hubble.
Good to have you all here. So you've all got a bit of paper with a few topics of conversation about what we want to talk about. David, you actually brought forward the first topic of conversation when I actually asked you about some ideas. And you spoke about how the exposure to the actual work itself can actually change how you perceive the work. I didn't know if you wanted to expand on that idea a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking about the grey paintings, if you like. They're up in Gallery 2 at the moment. So skin, silicate, abstract grey and a grey mirror painting and so on. In the gallery we've got the tapestries and we've got 4,900 colours. Those to me have a kind of wow factor. I think it's ones where visitors and possibly us as well immediately like them as objects. The tapestries are beautiful, and 4,900 colours, kind of explosively colourful in a really nice space overlooking Guildhall Square. They have a wow factor. Over the weeks, as we're sat in the rooms, in the galleries, looking at them though, for me at least, what interests me changes. I still like those, but the slightly more understated works start, bubbling up, and I start musing upon them maybe a little bit more.
Yeah. For me personally, I wasn't necessarily familiar with Gerhard Richter's work at all really before I started working here. I don't know if that's the case for everyone.
Yeah, I knew a little bit of it. I've seen some in Berlin, and again it was kind of grey and it was kind of unassuming, like it was just, I think it was one of his seascapes. I was kind of like, okay, that's a really nice looking realistic picture, but it doesn't do much for me at the moment.
I came across him on foundation course in 2002, and I just was intrigued because he uses different techniques. He paints photographs and they look like photographs, and he makes paintings with a squeegee. He's pretty amazing really in that respect.
He kind of does everything. I was reading an article recently where someone describes him as a gymnast of sort of mediums, which I think is a really good description.
Yeah. Considering that we're with the work more than anyone else that comes into the gallery, I don't know if, based on what Dave actually brought up, do you feel, now that you've actually spent a couple of months with the work, has your impression of the way Richter actually works changed at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of my teachers in uni was always like, she was always like, you should spend enough time in front of the work to really concentrate on it until it almost becomes like an orgasmic experience, which is like kind of horrific because I would never want that in a gallery, but I think you spend enough time in a gallery that things just start changing, like anything does, I guess.
Yeah, I'd agree with that from Gallery 2 especially. Is I've started looking at the heavily abstracted things like abstract painting grey, start seeing all the little details that are hidden in there, and even hidden in things like silicate, and the differences in technique between them. So silicate and skin are, superficially similar, let's say, sort of blurred, partly abstracted, but still representational. One's brushwork, one's squeegee work.
Yeah.
And there's clearly something going on in the background underneath the main layers of paint, which you start seeing eventually
Yeah.
So yeah, event. It's kind of immersive. I think if you forced it, maybe it wouldn't work. But just being there, ideas start popping up. And doing a talk the other day, somebody looked at the three I'd chosen and said, "Oh, one's solid, one liquid, one gas. One was a solid object, the
That's
silicate.
interesting.
The skin was milk, therefore, and grey abstract. To them was fog, vapour. So like three main phases of matter. Well, there is another, but
I like that a lot, actually.
and I hadn't seen that in it at all.
I think that's the thing with Richter. You can have different readings. It just different people will see and understand different things from them, and I'm sure that's totally intentional.
Yeah, I think definitely the visitors have helped me like see the works differently, or at least their input has sort of made me view the work not necessarily in a different way, but like just to see how other people see it is quite. I've seen the work through them. I found that quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that guess in that way it reflects, in some elements, our initial impressions of what the work was when we first came in. Because there was a lady who came in today and she was talking to me about the same ones you were talking about, Dave, the silicate and the skin paintings. She said, is there in any way like an inherent scientific relation with the work? And I didn't really know how to answer it, because I guess in some ways there is a scientific relationship with his work.
I think so.
Yeah.
And it is always,
Systems and-
it's like systematic. Like all of his titles are oil sketch 432 / like 94, or they're all titled as though each one is sort of like an incremental progression, like each one is like an experiment,
Or like it's going to be archived or something.
Because he refers back to his work very often as well, to his own work. So I think at some point he made this decision to create an archive and to do that very thoroughly, methodically. And
yeah, I think he did it early on, as I understand it. Most of it, apart from the really early things, are all numbered, catalogued. I mean, I'm not sure about some of the ones I'm familiar with before this exhibition were things like Betty.
Betty is the famous photograph of the blonde girl, his
portrait
daughter,
from behind,
I think. Of her hair sort of plaited up.
Because that's kind of like, that's like Martin Creed as well did that with all of his works. He began just numbering them, but that was to take the mick. Just being like work number 1, work number 2. But with Richter, it's like a very sincere.
Yeah, I think so. And to help him to organise his work as well. I mean, it must be quite a difficult.
It must be chaos.
To look back and as I say, he does refer back to his own work, as we can see in the mini retrospective we have here. He's taken an oil sketch and sort of enlarged it and projected it and repainted it, and then the other works that he's done and taken photographs of a very small oil sketch that he'd made years before and presenting that in panels, photographic panels of work in a completely different way. And that's what really intrigues me about him as an artist, that he can take an earlier work and re-engage with it and represent it in such an awesome way, really, as he has done with the tapestries, for example, that are derived from an earlier squeegee painting, and then that painting is basically being divided into 4 images and then replicated on itself. It's really intriguing, some of the ideas and concepts that he has and how he follows things through, I think.
Yeah, and like when he reappropriates his work, like it's interesting to think, like, does he recontextualise it as well? Like, does it become something new to him, or is he kind of being reflective in what he's done before, or does it just carry on being Richter's work?
Yeah, well, no, I think that's interesting, because at least for me, having spent all the time with the work, I don't know, I was speaking to someone earlier on and I said that it seems, at least for Richter and the work that he makes over the time that he has created the work, at least, you can almost see his mind playing with the work. So it's not necessarily that he's looking at the work and thinking, how can I change this, or anything like that. He's almost looking at his own work and thinking, I could just have some more fun with this.
Yeah.
But I don't think he necessarily needs a concept for some of his work to create it in the first place.
I'm
I
just sorry.
No, you
I was
carry
just
on.
I was just thinking more. Say he made something in a particular time, to then go back to it and then take bits from it and then make it in like the present time.
Yeah.
Does that shift things around in terms of maybe something that was accessible or interesting then, is that still relevant now, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because that's like he had... And it's interesting that he does figurative work alongside abstract work now, and he sort of always has. But it seems like there was a really long period of time where he hadn't made any photorealist paintings, and then in 2009 there's the painting of the Twin Towers exploding, and he makes a sudden return to like those figurative sort of blurred out photographic works that he had done like 40 years earlier.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
But
Well, I think this is it. He's got a toolkit of techniques. He can paint photorealistically, should he choose, or completely abstractly, by squeegee, by brush. Somewhere in between sort of blurred images, which is, I've had to try, and it's so difficult. I mean, it looks blurred, it also looks rubbish. But try to do it so it works. It's just not simple. And I think that's one of the things, going back to spending time with the work, is that you start realising how skilled some of it is, even if it's heavily abstracted, even if heavy abstraction is not your thing. Start realising that it's not straightforward. Yes, you can make marks on a surface, but whether they'll be interesting is another matter.
He obviously doesn't mind challenging people, and we see with the grey mirror and the mirrors, the green and the red and the blue, that they are challenging for the viewer, especially people who maybe haven't had experience in an art gallery before. But
or contemporary art gallery.
Yeah, I find those works really annoying.
Yeah, they are provocative, extremely provocative, and I think that's the joy of them. And I still look at them and think, are they just bits of perspex, or are
I think that leads
amazing artworks? And it's great to just consider them, and the fact that they reflect you back at yourself in the context of the gallery space and that moment in time, and it's just it takes you to a different
really confrontational, isn't it? Because it's almost like you're there, you're wondering what the hell you're looking at, and then the work reflects back you in this like stupid situation. Like it's almost mocking. Like it's like look at you trying to figure this work out.
And you can't photograph it as it is, because it reflects whatever you try. If you stand in front of it, you get yourself, whether you want to or not, or you stand off to one side and you get some light, you get some reflection. Unless you've got a studio with a very low lighting, just the camera and a long exposure, you're not going to get a shot of grey mirror. And you can watch people trying, and in gallery, trying to get a photo of it, and they're going to get what he intended, which is them reflected in it in monochrome. And that it almost doesn't exist without the viewer. It's not representation of anything other than itself and whatever is reflected. And you see people, some shrug and move on, some clearly spend some time, and either's fine, of course.
Absolutely, that's what it's about. I think it's great to be able just to contemplate an artwork and actually know nothing about it sometimes, and just leave it at that and just walk away. And that was a moment in visual art. Sometimes we overthink it, maybe a little, but
there was somebody who came in that was talking about the squeegee paintings, and she travelled down from London to see the paintings, and she was saying there was a room in Tate where they had the Cage paintings. They're like really white, they're squeegees, and she would go and like sit in there all the time, and she found like a whole load of like solace in that room. And apparently she once like berated a security official because they didn't have a bench in this room or something. But because I find those works quite boring, I always forget that there are people who actually find them quite like really nice and peaceful and
meditative, maybe.
yeah, it's hard to imagine people with different tastes to yourself. Or you're always like, but my tastes are the best, obviously.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I think what you were talking about, Sarah, with people coming in and they, like, you find some people come in and they're like, they don't necessarily understand it. There was something else that I wanted to bring up with more so the abstract, I guess, than anything else, is what is the limitations of contemporary art? I mean, now that we're more situated in the city centre of Southampton, at least, you don't have an audience coming in that have specifically seeked out the gallery. They've gone to the university campus, they found a gallery hidden away in the corner. Now they can just walk in off the street and you have a broader audience at least. And if you like, the average Joe that doesn't necessarily understand art as much as other people that come in. So at least for them, I guess, they won't necessarily understand it. So I think it'd be interesting to see what you guys think, at least.
When you say understand it, it almost makes it prescriptive for me, you know, as if there's only one right answer. And in fact, as we've shared hours with this work, invigilating this amazing exhibition we've had, and we still don't always know how to articulate our response to the work anyway. So why would you expect somebody who hasn't...
So in that sense, would you say that exposure is a natural, like, necessity to actually develop
I mean,
a personal
everybody
understanding?
can
'Cause
understand.
we find multiple every day that people come in and they're like, I could do that.
Yeah, they do.
But do you think, to then some extent, that is a limitation of contemporary art, that it's not necessarily understood by everyone unless you have that time with the work?
No, well, that's difficult, isn't it? I think it's great that we have the opportunity to share, you know, to show people this work. And I think if they come in and they don't consider it art, or they don't, they're happy, they would like to discuss that, then there are people in the gallery that can sort of engage with that, you know, their ideas on it. But I don't think you necessarily have to teach everybody everything about Gerhard Richter for them to appreciate or not appreciate. And it's, as we already said, it's okay either way.
And I don't think engagement necessarily has to even be about teaching people anything.
No.
I think more so it's about finding out what art is to other people, and then starting from there, really. Because the idea that you are inviting someone into a space and then saying to them, look, this is how you're supposed to look at it.
Yes.
It puts you in a position of authority that you
Absolutely.
don't really, that isn't yours in a way, because everyone can consider contemporary art in any way they want, and then there's contemporary art, and then there's contemporary art and contemporary art.
Yes.
So, I mean, even in this gallery, there's going to be limitations to what contemporary art can be,
Right.
just in like logistics, but
Yes.
also in terms of, you know, how far you can take things, because you still want to have people to come in and look at the art and stuff like that. So there's loads of things that need to be negotiated in that kind of situation.
Yeah, that's very true. And people, the other thing is that the people who come in might not be, or everybody has a certain amount of openness, and the people who, there'll be people who are high in openness and will be like, a grey piece of glass, how lovely, this has made me reflect on my day. And then there will be people who are less open who will be like, this isn't art for me. But I think what we, I think most people working in the arts are already high in openness, and perhaps what we struggle with is this idea that there's a public perception of what art should be. I think most people are kind of like, well, I would like art to relate to me, to perhaps be more universal. And I think that's sort of what artists struggle with worldwide. But I guess that's the thing, you can never please everyone, which is the problem with
I don't think art
exhibitions.
necessarily has to please everyone. I think it's more about people like you say, who maybe work within the arts, not thinking that that they have to sort of impose a way to view something.
For sure.
Because obviously that people come from all walks of life, and some people have more exposure to certain kinds of art, like the canon of art history and things like that, and they think that that's how art should be. And then other people who maybe have not had any of this exposure but may have been making art in their own time have got their ideas from other places, say popular culture, and who's to say that that's not interesting and that couldn't be exhibited somewhere like a gallery like this.
And anyway, you need, give people credit. We live in the modern age, and everyone has travelled and had different experiences, and you can't assume that people are always ignorant.
Of
and
course
actually,
not,
people will surprise you sometimes with what they say about work. You think this, if you assume that person might be unfamiliar with art, and then they would make a comment or an observation about that work that you hadn't yourself experienced or thought of, and that just reinforces that what my point, that you shouldn't be too prescriptive or impose your ideas.
And people can, and it's fine not to like something and to say so. I mean, certainly a couple of people almost like whispering, I don't think this one is for me. It's like, you don't have to whisper. If you don't like it, that's absolutely fine. Equally, feel free to chat with us about it. If you want to, you can express it however you wish. If what you think is, it's swooshy and colourful, that's fine. You don't have to say, oh, the chiaroscuro, It does not matter. Some will, some won't. And as you're saying, people have got different backgrounds. I have no formal background, and it makes no difference.
But art is like music in that way, isn't it? That it's accessible to everybody. It's deeply embedded in different cultures in different ways, and there's mixing. It's like cooking, and we don't have to pigeonhole everything and make stereotypical things, and it's just something to be appreciated. Or
well, and equally the fact that we're a contemporary white box gallery, but we're perfectly welcoming. It is for anyone who wants to come in, and they spend the time they wish, which may be short or maybe longer, and can engage with the artwork in whatever way they wish, and express as they choose. There is no prescription, even if there is a perceived one maybe, which we kind of, the engagement with contemporary art, if we all knew how to do that with the wider world, we'd be doing a very good job. I don't think anyone's worked that out yet.
No, but we've actually got a special guest with us. Hello, Nadia.
Hiya.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
If you want, I don't know if you wanted to say.
I don't know what the question was.
Well, who you are, at
who
least
I am.
in the gallery.
Okay, yeah.
And then we can carry on from there.
Yeah, so my name's Nadia.
Hello.
My name's Nadia Thondrayen, and I'm the exhibitions curator.
Lovely. So, for you, your position is to organise where all the work goes in the gallery?
Yeah, I help out.
Yeah.
Because of course there's director, senior curator, and then there's me.
Okay, so at least from your point of view, in terms of when the Richter show was coming in, was there any specific way that you went about showing the work, like deciding what people saw first, necessarily by going downstairs and seeing the tapestries and having that quite immersive visual assault, if you like, of colours and things like that?
Yeah. So I guess what's possible to loan and the architecture of the gallery needs to come together, and they need to work together. So the idea of having the tapestries downstairs, it is a window onto the street. So it is, it's kind of like you say, yes, it potentially could draw people in, which is what we would like. Yeah, and of course we have the space for it. They fit beautifully in there. We built a wall to segregate that work with the works, of course, on the back of the gallery, of Gallery 1. So, together that was curated as a space.
Yeah, and then, working throughout, did you, because at least the way we send people through the gallery, going to Gallery 1 and then Gallery 2 is typically the first place that people go coming up the stairs. They turn left, and then you're greeted by all the grey and the abstract, and then you go through the second half of Gallery 2, and then you've got a bit more colour involved, and then you've got the the mighty Gallery 3.
The
which,
Farbens, yeah.
Yeah, which I quite
4,900,
like.
Yeah.
Is that sort of like it's almost like a motion of Richter, if you like? I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, no, that's nice.
You sort of go through these segments of his workings and his mind in a way.
Yeah, because you could either curate the show chronologically or we could go thematically. So we went thematically.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't know about you guys. How is it that you actually view going through the gallery? Because I know we rotate quite randomly, but if you were to walk through, is that something that you guys would have, I don't know, taken in? Like the change of colour to monochrome to colour?
I think it's definitely evident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Downstairs you have the tapestries, and then you have the two works at the back which have like a conceptual relationship. So they work really well together. And then obviously upstairs, the portraits all in one room, the sort of grey stuff all in one room, and then the other rooms. I think, Nadia, do you find curation quite difficult at John Hansard? Because obviously the rooms are disjointed. So we have like one gallery downstairs that we've turned into two, and then you have Barker Mills upstairs, which is sort of its own room, and then you have the other galleries which actually join together. So it's not like a sort of like a Tate show where all the rooms flow perfectly through each other. There's some rooms are very separate from others, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so we can play around with that because, of course,
Yeah.
walls will come down for the next show time after time. It opens on the 8th of September.
Yes, plug.
Plug that. And walls will come down, walls come up. So we will very much play with the space accordingly to each exhibition.
And where we have, so I think we have two walls actually built for the show. Why did you decide with the room with all of the grey paintings in, and then the room with the more sort of war themed
political.
Yeah, you decided to just separate them off with a wall, or does the wall have any other purposes?
Yeah, well, if we curated the show thematically, so the grey works, of course, allude to Richter's use of grey within his practice, which is established, and then moving into the second half of Gallery 2, you think about Richter and his relationship to the Third Reich. He was born in West Germany, 1932, and saw the fall and the rise of this party, and it's in the decimation of the West Germany and whatnot, and so that did need a space like of its own.
Yeah. And how come the corner glass pieces were put in there?
So painting on mirror is also something that is very much established in his practice, and so you've got a painting a mirror in the grey area, and so to walk within, to walk through to gallery, the second part of Gallery 2, and see those corner mirrors together is a nice relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which come back to what you were saying just now, that you go from there, you get some colour, then you get loads more, all in sort of small square blocks. Sort of grey, oh, bit of colour, it builds up up nicely. It is how most people probably see it, the route they take. How they perceive it, I don't know, but the route they physically take is a very common one. Then Barker Mill probably afterwards, on the whole, I think.
Yes.
Generally see people come back out through 2 and into Barker Mill to go to portraits. But it's interesting seeing how people engage, because tapestries and 4,900 colours, A, people go wow, and B, they look behind them and see how they're made and how they're attached to the wall in a way that they just don't seem to do in the other bit. It's fascinating. Must admit, I was wondered as well.
Well, with 4,900 colours specifically, I don't know how much involvement you had on the installation of that going up, or if you were there present while it was going up. I know for a lot of people that come in, they want to know if Richter had any actual say in how it was laid out on the walls, if it was predetermined and he actually came up with that configuration. Because I know for us, we see that it's very much designed to fit the space that it's in. I don't know if you wanted to...
Yeah, so in the wall text it describes how there's 9 versions of the way
Mhm.
of how the work could be hung. And so we've gone for version 1. And that is to disperse the works evenly across the space. And so Richter we were in contact with Richter through his studio, via his studio, and he approved of all the plans. We had a consultant come in on behalf of Richter. He was very nice, and he helped us alongside artist rooms, of course, because it is their collection.
Yeah.
First off and foremost, as well as loaning works from the studio and the Tate collection. So yes, all of those needed to kind of work together in order to for us to be able to kind of sign off the hang throughout the galleries.
Mm. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Because I think, I don't know, I guess for a lot of people they're like, oh, Richter, has he come into the gallery? Has he seen the work? So I think...
Was he at the private opening? Did you
Was he
meet
there?
him?
Was Richter there? Was he there for it? I don't know, I guess a lot of people want to have some tangible connection to Richter, at least when they come to see his work. They want to know he was here and he saw the work for himself.
The man
himself.
The legend. I want some of his aura.
That is Gerhard Richter. But something else I wanted to talk about with everyone was engaging with contemporary art. I mean, John Hansard specifically, we have Stairside Space,
Mhm.
which are associate artists with the gallery. And I've definitely found that their input with the shows that we had, so we had Sampler earlier in the year, and they had Conversation Station, which was encouraging conversation amongst people coming into the gallery and with us as gallery assistants as well. And then for this show, they've got the 48 Badges, which is in response to 48 Portraits.
Mm-hmm.
What does everyone think about engagement with contemporary art in the way, at least, to get people who aren't so familiar interested, at least? Because I know, me personally, I've done a fair bit of work with young offenders in Southampton with YOS, and I know that they've come into the gallery even when they were previously at Highfield campus. They came in and they've done work.
Oh yeah, we've been working with the youth vending department.
Yeah, and they've come in, and I think for them it's quite a beneficial experience in the sense that they're exposed to this art and they can understand it from a more educational point of view, if you like.
Yeah, I suppose it's making contemporary art accessible.
But
on their terms.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what, at least for me, I've seen personally, engaging with contemporary art is making it more accessible for everyone to absorb it at their own pace, if you like. Because I think 48 Badges specifically is a fun way for people to sort of engage with it without, I don't know, feeling like they're pressured into understanding art like we were talking about earlier on. Do you guys enjoy the work that Stairside Space at least put into the gallery for us to engage with our audience?
I sometimes think, do I even understand it? So it's nice to be able to get feedback from visitors, look at the way that they've made their badges and things, because I have found 48 Portraits probably the most challenging of all the works.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to be able to have a conversation with other people who perhaps find it challenging too, to figure out, do we have the same sort of challenges with it? Can they give me something that I haven't already thought about, or vice versa? So I definitely think that understanding the work is important in the respect of sort of being able to take in the information, so being able to understand like the literature that you have to hand. But I think there isn't like a way to understand it, so I don't necessarily feel like I have got that to impart on somebody, like, oh, this is how you're supposed to understand this.
Yeah,
Well, what about
sorry.
What about the artist's intent, though?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So like, to understand the artist's intent is important, so that kind of
Yeah.
information somebody would need. But then to keep sort of maybe ploughing home, like, this is what they meant. And if somebody was saying, actually, I don't agree with that, or I think that I can criticise that because this person came from a particular area, it was a particular class, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You can be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because you have like the intent, which is the, I guess, for like external stimuli, and then you have how somebody is sort of receptive to that idea.
Yeah.
I guess because art is just a sort of currency of ideas, it's whether somebody engages with that or whether they're just like, no, this is crap and I don't care.
But I mean,
Yeah.
the artist can intend that you find something, I don't know, inspiring or whatever they intend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't, you don't. You're not
Yeah.
wrong for
No.
that.
And you don't need to be sort of ushered into a way of being
No.
able to find
The
it
thing with
interesting.
48 Badges, the Stair Slide Space project, which is engaging with the visitor. The idea is that they write on the badge their response to, I think it was initially 48 portraits, and then we sort of opened it up to a wider response to the gallery, because I do think the best thing about it is that it does give people the opportunity to, quite often they do want to say something, and it gives them the opportunity to say it in the sort of comforting little environment that we have provided with a sofa and some badge making machine, and it's kind of a fun way of collecting some feedback, and people have actually really enjoyed doing that, I think, in most part. And gallery assistants have tried to help facilitate that and keep it a fun and interesting activity for everybody, for young children as well as adults.
I think it's been a bit of a struggle, because I think with the badges, some people have responded to the work, but a lot of people haven't at all, and have just used it as a way to, make a fun badge. Like, we had we run out of badge supplies because there were some people who just came in every single day to make badges.
But I guess in some ways
they made about 30 badges.
Yeah, it's good for them to be in the space. I don't know. That's another means of getting them involved. But
yeah, they were
mean.
enjoying the gallery, and I think in that sense it was kind of interesting, because what Stair Slide Space they sort of intended for people to come up with really deep responses to the gallery, but it kind of became its own work where people just enjoyed what was there to use and make, and I struggle with sort of this audience involvement artwork, because I don't know, it just tends to become the audience just hanging out and doing what they do.
I think if it's prescriptive, that's what you're saying. If you've got, I think, you're saying is that if they're sort of told what they have to do, then they're not so.
Well, you don't
keen.
want it to be butlins, like art butlins, where this is the fun time and you will have your fun in this particular way. Yeah, I mean, guidance, yes, but I'm not sure if I would walked into a gallery and it had a respond in badge form. I'm not sure I would follow that particular prescription. I might, but I might not. I might just draw something, which I think is what a lot of people have done, is sketch something or just made a statement about the world, which is not a bad thing.
And I think that probably with this artwork, I'm not sure if they, I think it was a sort of organic thing, in the sense that they didn't know exactly what the outcome or output would be, and it has, as you sort of suggested,
it's kind of evolved,
its
hasn't
own
it?
life and become something maybe a bit different to...
Which is how an artwork often is.
Absolutely,
So, there's no problem with that.
I totally,
And it's what we're saying about intentions. If Stair Slide Space's intentions were that people would make these sort of direct responses, if you like, to the questions we posed, and they haven't.
Who's that classic? Because this is situational aesthetics now, where everything is on the audience to sort of become the artwork and interact with the artwork. Who is the person
Sweet Rapper one?
Oh yeah, you have the Sweet Rapper, and then it's Rourke the one who did the meals. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't say his name.
Can't remember
I'll say it wrong.
that. Come on, go for it, please.
Food for everybody.
So he cooked. Yeah, he cooked food for everyone. There's another one which is the artist invites friends to the gallery for beer. I struggle. I'm kind of is this artwork, or is this just an activity? Are people questioning the nature of art, or are they just hanging out? Are they just like doing something?
It goes back to Bruce Nauman in his studio, sort of prancing around doing what, like just what should I do in my studio today, and just saying, well, I'm an artist and I'm in my art studio, so whatever I do is art. So those sort of questions have been asked before, and I'm sure they will continue to be asked in defining what is art.
Yeah.
Is one of everybody, well, all artists get to discuss that quite frequently, I think. So that's, it's just pushing boundaries all the time and revisiting some old areas of that. Actually, everything almost has been done before, so in one way or the other. I think it's a reinterpretation, updated for the time. Art is of its time, I think, and it will investigate and will push boundaries. It will be provocative. It will be challenging. That's what art does. It's its role in society as well as being something pretty to look at.
I think I kind of take the opposite view of if all the boundaries have been pushed, then why not just do, if art's done everything, then why not just continue to do the best things? I guess
Well,
that's
what
you
are
see-
the
you see-
best things?
Yeah.
well,
Let me tell you what the best things are.
a good Lucian Freud does it for me, but I know everybody has their differences.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that could change one day to the next. One day I'm in the mood for something representational, technically adept. Another day I might want something heavily abstracted, highly contemporary. I might want an artwork where I can't remember what it's called either, but the gallery assistant shouted, "You, is this contemporary enough?" I can't remember who did that. That might really float my boat.
Tino
one day.
Segal.
Yeah, that's something like that.
This is so contemporary.
Yeah, that's right. That's
It's
exactly the one. That on
yeah.
on another day might be exactly what I
Or
want.
light going on and off.
Light
in
going
an
on
empty
and-
white cube.
Yeah, all of those things.
I think I definitely know the feeling of going to a gallery and feeling extremely shortchanged.
Which was that?
But I guess that's what... It was White Cube. But I guess that's kind of the... I guess art has to do with... Because you're viewing it, it's also to do with the mood that you're in. And
Yeah. Someday I might want to stare at a Rothko and just watch it happily pulsate in my brain. Other days I might want someone to jump out at me and do something unexpected in an extremely abstracted and contemporary manner, and I might want to look at a Turner the day after that.
Yeah.
I think it kind of runs back to this. We've all kind of, we're still playing out this sort of postmodernist idea of, what you want is of not having universal values, and I am someone who would like to know whether there are any universal values and whether they could be found in art, but it's just such a broad thing. I think it's kind of impossible to impose.
Why is that imposed? Like universal values? What's that?
Well, it would be like, what art can we make that would build culture up, that would be good for people, that would be good for culture?
What culture?
Human culture. Well, any culture, the culture of man, like...
What about
The
women?
good of all men.
Sorry, I mean the good of people, people kind.
But do you think that's encouraged by engaging with a younger audience so that then they can build into producing that artwork? I don't know. Is that what you mean?
I think so. I just mean...
I don't really know what universal culture is. It sounds a bit imperialist.
No, universal value,
Oh,
as in
universal
like truth
Oh, okay.
and an idea of beauty. But I guess a universal beauty also doesn't exist, but...
No.
No, I think you're trying to pigeonhole things that will never be pigeonholed.
Probably,
It's just
probably.
It's-
But I will.
Want to?
I will
Yeah.
continue.
It sounds hideous.
So I mean, for me, a diversity, as I was saying, because what I like and what I enjoy and what I engage with will differ, possibly from day to day, depending.
Yeah.
Am I in a hurry? Am I
Yeah.
tired? Am I
Like
feeling
music,
joyous?
what, you know.
You know, I might want to go and see Cold Dark Matter and go, wow, watch it explode. Or I might want to go and look at Enchanté Andalou and go, ew. Or I might want to, any number of possibilities, and no single one will ever be a thing that I would want to see every day. It just doesn't
And you
exist and
want to
can't
see
exist.
new work and
Yeah.
experience new
And it could be new
work
to me.
too.
It could be
Yes.
but
It could be a very famous work, but
Mm.
you've never seen it. I mean, for me personally, when I was an art student, I saw lots of little pictures of work on a computer screen or on a sometimes very famous work, and to be actually able to go and experience the real work, as if you saw Richter's tapestries on a computer screen or in a book, it is not the same thing as
Yeah.
standing in that room with some.
and you can get your face up to them as
Immersed.
long as you don't touch it. You could be like a millimetre away looking at all the tiny
Yes.
threads, and the pixel size, if you like, is down to the smallest silk thread. And you've got the textures where there's sort of wool and contours, and you can immerse in it. It's
vital,
like it's
that
almost
sort of-
fractal, but not quite. But you can't do that from a photograph. A photograph might inspire you to seek it out
Yes,
if it
and
comes
now
your way.
that digital photography is pretty good, but it's just not the same thing.
No.
Absolutely, and that it will. Yes, as you say, it might draw you in, but to experience the work is the best thing.
Like going to a gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But back to universal truth.
Oh no.
Well, we need it though to separate. We need to separate the good from the bad and decide what is important and what's not.
But-
Otherwise,
I don't understand how you can do that, because everyone has different ideas of what that represents.
I guess so. But why is? I guess you could do that. I guess capitalism does it for majority sales and like minority sales. Like, why is Sharknado bad? Why would you want to do that? To make things better, to get things to a higher quality, to a higher production, to a better scale.
So in talking about in terms of like quality and money, like if you have the money to make something better, why?
I guess it's not just a concern of money, but
So if
how do we form not necessarily a system, but a way in which things do become better, in terms of quality.
But then quality is subjective as well, isn't it?
Are you
Maybe.
talking about
It comes
this
down to taste as well.
in the context of this gallery and this? How you apply?
No, sort of culture wide, as in how do we?
Sort of our responsibility to the next generation.
Yeah, I
as
think
it
so.
were.
Yeah.
To do what? To just try to help them be better people. Is that what you're saying?
To try and get a better quality in
Quality
the
of what
arts.
though?
Of thought, of production value.
So is there something that you think it is like they're lacking quality? Have you got an example?
Oof. Maybe. How about the general taste for interior decoration? Maybe stuff like that, as in like
fashion, that is, isn't
yeah.
it?
Maybe we're getting too
Yeah.
too like wide ranging.
Well, no, I think in terms of what you were saying about setting it up for the next generation, if you like,
Yes,
that's
maybe.
sort of what I was going for in terms of engagement with a younger audience.
Yes.
I think
We
I can kind of I know where you're sort of aiming around.
Yeah.
like a
but-
duty to.
Yeah, but I think in terms of engagement, finding a better quality is, for me at least, with Stair Slide Space and what they've brought into the gallery for us and other people who are coming in to respond with, that is a means of exploring people's tastes, their idea of quality. So maybe at least for them responding to the work and how giving them the option to respond and engage with artwork, the gallery space as a whole, is a means for them to have their say and give some idea of a better quality or whatever it is that you're going for.
And the previous work, the conversation station, would have done that more
exactly,
broadly.
on a much more personal level as well. Because I
yes.
think that's part of the idea why the podcast was brought forward, is that we can have this conversation and discuss subjects. And I think that is another method of giving our viewpoints and discussing these matters, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But from a gallery point of view, with you, Nadia, do you see the John Hansard as an avenue for people to engage with work by bringing in stair slide space?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we do it in our exhibitions, and we do it in our engagement program. The both need to come together, I think. Yeah.
I mean, for you personally, in terms of how you engage with contemporary art, do you prefer having an avenue to express how you feel about the work, or do you prefer it to be more of a personal level? Because at least for us with Conversation Station and 48 Portraits, it's not a necessity for those who come into the gallery to respond to the work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like having a voice to say what you do and don't like?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say I haven't made a badge yet.
You haven't made a badge?
I haven't made a badge yet.
Oh,
but
oh no.
the show hasn't ended yet. I'll make one tomorrow.
Make one tomorrow,
Okay,
alright.
yeah. But is the question, do I personally need?
I mean, for you and maybe for everyone else as well, do you like having a means of response to work in a gallery setting?
Yeah. I think in the John Hansard Gallery context, I work on the shows.
Okay.
So I'm in on the meetings from an early stage.
Yeah.
So I've already got a way in.
Okay.
I've already met curators or artists, or I've already heard whoever it is speak about the work, do you know what I mean? Like, I've heard the artist speak about the work. It depends on the show, of course. Depending on I've got that insight anyway. But if I were to go to another gallery and see a work that I've not seen before, I may know the artist. Usually I know the artist but don't know too much about the work. So if there was an activity, I probably would do it.
I think where an artwork expects you to do something, to interact, to participate with it, that in a physical sense like that, rather than just gazing or being with sharing a space with an artwork, for example. That, to me, that is kind of, it's difficult to explain, but it throws it back at the viewer, the visitor, to participate. And I know that they're offered a choice. As you said, you might not do the badge thing, or other people might. I don't know. It's a different kind of art where and I think it has, because it comes from a different place. It's got a kind of aim to it, looking for a result in a way, which, in the case of the 48 Portraits, more so with the Conversation Station, I'm not sure if that would described as an artwork. I think it was more of an interactive
discussion piece.
Yes. But 48 Badges is a little bit ambiguous in that way, because in a way it is an artwork, and as we said, it's sort of organically evolving, but there's also a purpose to it, which is to engage the audience, to get people to participate, and for us to learn about how the artwork is perceived. Whereas when somebody is creating, I'm not saying normally because there isn't a normal, but often when artwork is made, and
like conventionally
by an artist, maybe they don't have those constraints. So perhaps that's why I view something like that slightly differently, because I quite like that the freedom. For me personally, if I had to make, I don't like too many constraints when I'm making an artwork, and actually that's not how I would make art.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think of Michael Fried, who Sophie recommended Michael Fried to me, I think, because me and Michael Fried are both really brash, have really brash opinions. But Fried talks about these big, at the time it was abstract expressionism and it was moving into minimalism, and he was saying that the really large sort of human-sized sculptures were dramatic, but the abstract expressionist work was absorbing. And it's those two sort of parallels within work. Either you have work that absorbs you into itself and you're almost like meditating on what's in it. Like landscapes do that because they have perspective. You have to look into them and you have to sort of search around the picture, whereas artworks like 48 Badgers are sort of asking you to do something, or they're asking you to move around them and interact with them.
Like Huddlehood or something.
Yeah, engaging.
Yeah.
Or even really large sculptures sort of beg you to move around the space and appreciate them.
Yeah, well, totally. I mean, the things that end up in Turbine Hall are like that, big enough for you to walk through, and indeed that might be what you're meant to do. Towers with stairs through them, and they're not really designed to. Yeah, exactly. They're not intended for you to just stare at them.
I need to look this name up.
Okay.
Sorry, continue.
But yeah, basically, it's fun making badges.
It is.
It is a lot of fun making badges.
And I think it gives you the opportunity to engage with the public and the visitors, should I say, rather than public people who are visiting. Yeah. So.
Favourite badges so far that have been made?
There was one that said 4.8 on the Richter scale. I don't know who made that, but it was
excellent.
Really
Nice.
That was really good. I like that a lot.
My favourite was Dogs Are Cats from Mars.
That was pretty good.
Completely irrelevant, but great all the while.
Well, I think being in the space encourages a certain creative flair to everyone that actually comes into the space. So even if it isn't necessarily related, and I think that's something that 48 Badgers has evolved into, is just a creative reaction to the work that you've seen. And even if it is something that's not necessarily specifically dedicated to one of the works on display, I think it's nice to see that people can, even if they wouldn't necessarily put themselves in that box of being a creative person, they have there's flares of that to everyone.
It made me chuckle, which is more than a lot of artworks do. So,
But no, I think we're going to wrap everything up there, guys. Thank you very much, everyone, for their input.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Glad you all had fun. So you can find us all on social media, specifically at John Hansard Gallery. If you search John Hansard Gallery on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, you will find us. We're now in the cultural quarters of Southampton, on Guildhall Square. We're right opposite Turtle Bay and the Guildhall. Do we have what's our address, Nadia?
142 to 144, above bar.
Do you know our postcode?
Oh, SO14 7DU.
There you go. You've got the address. Our next show is Time After Time. That is opening on the 8th of September. So definitely come down for that. We'll definitely go into that in the next episode of the podcast. But for now, thank you for joining, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.